Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lisa Pelrine, and I'm the Director of Enrollment Management here at Chapel Hill-Chauncy Hall School. I'm just going to take a moment to review what we're going to be covering this afternoon and how much time we should plan for each section. So again, our webinar this afternoon is a CH-CH education in the age of COVID-19. We are going to be recording this webinar and posting it on our website for those who cannot attend to have an opportunity to do so. And I just wanted to make a little note for those listening to the pre-recorded webinar. This was recorded on June 18th to plan for the upcoming school year. We are using the information we have at this current time. However, we do encourage you to reach out to the admissions office to get current information. Okay, we're going to start off with an introduction of our panelists. And then we're going to spend about 30 minutes reviewing three topics. The core values at CH-CH. We're going to be doing a presentation on what core is and how it's really threaded throughout our community here. And then we're going to be talking about the different hallmarks of CH-CH and how we've adapted it to our spring term when we had to go distance learning. And then we're going to review the scenarios for the fall as they stand right now. As everyone knows, things are changing on a daily basis, but we'll try to highlight what we have planned at this time. I'm going to encourage everyone who's attending, please feel free to put your questions in the chat throughout the presentations and discussion. So that way I'll start collecting those questions because after the presentation, we're going to go into a Q&A. Okay, so please feel free to add any questions that you have at any point. Once we're done with the Q&A, I'm going to briefly review the admissions next steps and what options there are for new families who are currently engaging in the admissions process. We kind of have a mix of people joining us this afternoon from newly enrolled families to current families in the application process, brand new inquiries to CH-CH who are just learning about us for the first time. And we've also invited any educational consultants and secondary school placement people at our feeder schools that we work with to join. So there's kind of a mix of an audience with us, but please feel free to ask any questions that you may have. All right, so with that, I'm going to introduce our panel. And I'm going to be starting with Josh.
Hi, everybody. My name is Josh Bubar. I'm the assistant head of school. I've just completed my 19th year here at CH-CH, and I've done a little bit of everything during my time there. My family and I lived on campus for about a decade. I've coached a few different sports, lived in both the boys' dorm and the girls' dorm, taught English, taught history, taught some skills and academic support. So I've touched a little bit of everything here at the school.
Great. Thank you, Josh. All right, next up is Kelly.
Good afternoon, I'm Kelly Walsh. I'm the director of 9th and 10th grade programs. I'm completing my 4th year here. I live on campus. I teach 9th grade history. I previously have also taught French 1, and this spring even got to dabble in teaching some SAS and look forward to meeting with all of you soon.
Great, thanks, Kelly. And I just want to clarify, SAS stands for Skills and Academic Support, and we'll go into more detail in just a moment. All right, up next is Ben. Oh, Ben, you're muted.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
My name is Ben Riggs. I'm the director of 11th and 12th grade programs. I'm just finishing my 9th year at Chapel Hill. I have lived on campus for the last 8 years with my family. So I've lived in like Josh, in the girls' dorm, boys' dorm, and I taught SAS when I first came to Chapel Hill. Taught in the English department for years, and still teach in the English department in addition to the administrative work that I do. So welcome, everyone.
Great. Thank you, Ben. All right, next up is Stephanie.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. I'm a current 12th grader. I've been going to Chapel Hill since my 9th grade, and I participate in 3 sports throughout the school year: basketball, soccer, and lacrosse. And I'm also one of the student body presidents, along with a SOCA leader and a cavalry leader.
Great. Thank you, Stephanie. And Stephanie's also a boarding student as well. So if anyone has questions about the boarding program, should be happy to answer that. All right, great. And up next is Max.
Hello, my name is Max. I am a current rising senior at Chapel Hill. I am from Ashland, Massachusetts, and I participate in theater tech. I manage the girls varsity volleyball team, and I participated in theater.
Great. Thank you, Max. And we have two parents joining us this afternoon as well. Michelle.
My name is Michelle Codrington. I have a parent of a rising senior and also vice chair of the PGA here at CH-CH, and welcome.
Thank you. Great. Thanks, Michelle. And Carrie?
Hi, I'm Carrie Traub. My daughter is a rising sophomore, so we just completed our first year. And I can say that she's also involved in theater and GSA and a few other clubs. And I am also a member of the PGA.
Great. Thank you, Carrie. I'm also going to have an opportunity, take an opportunity to introduce my admissions team. For those that are new to the process, I wanted you to have a face to the name. So I'm going to start with Susie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Susie Horn. I'm the Associate Director of Admissions and Financial Aid here at Chapel Hill-Chauncy Hall.
Great. Thank you, Susie. Up next is Christina.
Hello, I'm Christina Leonelli. I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions here, as well as the International Student Coordinator.
Wonderful. Thank you, Christina. Last but not least is Caroline.
Hi, I'm Caroline Finnemore, Admissions Officer here at CH-CH, and I also graduated in 2013.
Wonderful. Thank you. So I just want to make note, as with all of these webinars that we've done, you know, we're dealing with technology and different things, so things could happen, but we're just going to try our best. Even like our virtual backgrounds, not all of us were able to get that on our background, so you never know, but we're going to be totally laid back this afternoon and share as much information as we can about CH-CH and answer any questions on your mind. So with that said, I'm going to turn things over to Josh and get started on the presentation. And again, thank you, Joni, for putting the first question out there in the chat, and I'll look forward to receiving more questions as we go through. Thanks, everyone. Over to you, Josh.
All right, thank you, Lisa. All right, folks, I have just a short presentation that I'm going to share with you here. So I'm going to try to share my screen. This is always the challenge, but I think it's going to work. So the way we like to talk about the work we do here at Chapel Hill-Chauncy Hall is using the acronym of CORE, things that we keep central to our work here. And CORE stands for curriculum, opportunities, relationships, and empathy. For us, the curriculum takes a number of different forms. There's, of course, our academic curriculum that as a college prep high school is a significant part of everything we do with our students. And that curriculum ranges from a really outstanding skills and academic support program that many of our students take part in, to a number of AP courses that a number of our seniors take part in, and everything in between. And it's really characterized by a differentiated approach to instruction that allows every student multiple ways to grapple with both the content area understandings that we hope that they'll gain and the skills that we know they need to develop to move on to college. One aspect of our curriculum I think is really important to know about is that we do a lot more doing than we do receiving. And I want to share this video with you. This is a video that depicts our Senate simulation, which is a core element of our curriculum in the fall for our juniors and seniors. So you can hear a little bit from some of the teachers and particularly some of the students about the skills that they're developing in action.
Mr. President and members of the Senate, I move to amend SR 12.
Hi, I'm Ian McPhail. I'm one of the history department faculty here at Chapel Hill, and I'm participating in the Senate simulation today.
In order to prepare students for this simulation, we asked them to put together profiles on actual members of the United States Senate that they were going to pretend to be. After they put together their profiles, they were then asked to debate legislation that they actually created in real life.
We are voting on different bills that many students have made up themselves as senators, and we are kind of role-playing the two-party systems with the Democrats and the Republicans, and trying to balance our morals with our party beliefs, and kind of seeing what actual real senators have to do on a daily basis.
My beliefs are mostly Democratic, but I'm portraying a Republican candidate, and I have to really learn learn his beliefs, and I have to really be that person for a day. So I think that's really challenging, but really fun as well.
For the Jordanian government to handle and are in need of our assistance. How would you feel if you were stuck in such insecure places at elongated periods of time?
I love it. I love debating and, to be honest, arguing sometimes about these issues. I think it's really important to gain a really thorough understanding of how our government works, how we understand how decisions are made, how laws are passed, how bills are passed. And this is helping everyone, I think, get a great understanding of that. The Senate, I move to amend SR 12 in a way to help solve another massive problem facing America, which is the opioid crisis.
It's easy to just dismiss someone's views and be like, oh, well, I don't agree, so I'm not even going to spend time thinking about it. But it gives me a chance to think, like, why would someone think this and why would someone believe this, whether it be their upbringing or their state or their party or whatever. Like, there's a lot of contributors.
Why can't we say air pollutants when we want to address climate change? It's a true thing. Air pollutants are true. They happen.
I'm going to take away from this experience that even in the Senate, which is something I think is so professional, that there's a lot of compromise and there's a lot of talking amongst the parties, and I thought it was very much black and white, but I've realized that there is work between the aisles, there's work between the parties, and that people do need to come to compromises even in their adult life to get things done.
Say nay.
Nay.
In the opinion of the chair, the nays have it. We're going to continue talking about 247. All right.
As you can see there, our students talk about a lot of very, very important skills. They talk about their ability to communicate, their ability to collaborate. Their critical thinking skills are challenged there, as is their ability to take different perspectives. And we know that those are all incredibly valuable skills for them to develop now as they move out into the greater world. The next letter that we talk about is the O for opportunities. I'm sharing with you initially our congratulations to the CH-CH class of 2020. You see a number of schools that our graduating class will be heading off to here in the fall, though this isn't the entire list. And we'll talk about that in a second, but I think for many students, some of the opportunities they find at our school relate to our size. As a small school, there are opportunities to do things that many students, if they come from larger towns or larger public schools, they really haven't had the chance to do. Everybody who wants to here, for example, makes a team. Everybody who wants to participate in the theater can participate. If you want to do something else, we have other activities in our co-curricular program that you can take part in. In fact, for us, our co-curricular program that takes place for an hour to 2 hours at the end of the academic day is a mandatory portion of the student experience here because we think those opportunities are so valuable for student growth in so many ways. Another way that we want you to think about opportunities are these two numbers. 224, that's the number of college graduates that we've had, of high school graduates we've had over the past 5 years. 118 is the number of different schools that our students have matriculated to in that time period. If you do the math, that creates a ratio of about a 0.52. And we like to think that the closer we draw that ratio to 1, the better job we're doing. Our college counseling program is designed so that students find the college that is the right fit for them, where they can find and take advantage of all the opportunities in front of them when they move through our college prep process and into the next step in their academic lives. There are dozens upon dozens upon dozens of wonderful colleges out there. We try very, very hard not to have our students or our families confine their thinking to certain lists or certain expectations that may be dropped upon them by their community or by the outside world, because we think that this important decision to find your next educational opportunity should be yours and yours alone. Part of those opportunities that we create here at Chapel Hill depend on the relationships. One of the most valuable things that your son or daughter will find here with us is the relationships they'll make with adults and with their peers. In particular, I think our teachers are expert at finding ways to have relationships with adolescents that can be productive and provide those adolescents at times with the light that they need to see their way through what can be a difficult time. I'd like to share another video with you that I think emphasizes this piece of the Chapel Hill secret sauce.
Is it okay if we really don't keep a light on. Do you need a light?
I don't think so.
I should play with that formality a little bit.
Yeah, put it back in the Apple TV.
So your affect in the classroom changed. Oh, are you joking?
Hi, Ms. Fink. It's Natanya. I just wanted to say thank you for all of your help my senior year of high school, helping me write my essays and get in my college application, and then actually helping to get me into college.
It's Nora from class of 2016. I just wanted to say thank you so much for everything you did for me when I was at school and continuing afterwards. You were always there for me, and I really appreciate that.
I'd like to say thank you to Mr. Castillo for always seeing the light in me. He always knew I was destined to just be great.
You taught me so much over my time at Chapel Hill, and you showed me what learning is all about, and you made school fun for me. And not only that, but you made learning a passion of mine.
And I really value all of the care you put into your work because it makes me more inspired to go forward and help others in the way that you helped your students. And I'm really excited to return to Chapel Hill and say hi finally after months and months of promising to do so and see you and just say thank you in person.
That is incredible.
Well, thank you for doing that.
The last piece that we like to talk about is empathy. One of the words that keeps coming up as we speak to our students, our parents, our faculty, our staff, our alumni about the school is how empathic the entire community is. And this is something we work to intentionally grow. From our community service requirement to our spring sessions where we take on issues such as systemic racism, personal fitness, and even simply creating art together on campus. We create specific experiences that allow students and teachers to get to know each other at a deeper, more personal level so that they can really come to understand what's going on for each other. We've also, in the last couple of years, paired with the Making Caring Common project at Harvard University, and we really live out their ideals of raising kids who care about others and the common good. I hope this has helped shape for you a little bit the big picture here at Chapel Hill-Chauncy Hall. And what I'd like to do is turn it over to Kelly Walsh and Ben Riggs, our program directors, to share with you a little bit of how these values have come into play here in the difficult spring that we've all experienced.
All right, thank you, Josh. This first slide that you're all seeing is our school's portrait of a graduate, which our entire faculty has worked over the past couple of years to develop and has really helped sort of provide us some guidance in our curricular planning in thinking about the skills that we want all of our graduates to walk away from Chapel Hill with, but also some areas of focus that our students can really dig into deeply in areas that they're passionate in and pursue areas of particular interest. Josh's example of the Senate simulation, he highlighted a couple of these sort of key domains in our portrait of a graduate that students can hone in particular classes and really develop those skills. So this is sort of our North Star in curricular development and really helped us in our internal professional development this spring, where, when we decided we were moving to a distance learning model, we did a week-long internal professional development, an intensive professional development with our teachers, and we were all able to come together and do some backward planning and think about, how we can approach the work with empathy and then also how we can pursue really central skills in those courses despite that distance learning model. And really it was quite successful. So we're pretty proud of that. And this was something that helped guide that. Kelly's going to move ahead here. And Josh mentioned a couple of the hallmarks of our program, and Kelly, please jump in at any point. But SAS has been mentioned a couple of times, and we want to make sure that sort of you understand how SAS functions sort of in the holistic sort of curricular model. So SAS is a 1-to-4 teacher to student ratio course where students will work with that teacher and with each other to gain sort of essential core academic skills in concert with their courses. So those courses, like all of our courses, meet in a regular schedule, in a regular sequence. We have 75-minute class blocks 3 times a week. Students will take 6 courses, and SAS for many of our students is one of those courses. About 80% of our freshmen take SAS, about 60% of our sophomores, and students 11th and 12th graders absolutely take SAS, but many students sort of wean off of SAS as they move up through the grade levels. Another support that we offer daily in our schedule is office hours. Even though we have 75-minute blocks, which is extended learning time, we like to provide, goes back to that idea of empathy, we like to provide some time to breathe and to move about our beautiful campus when we're here together, and to take time in between classes to really decompress and reflect and do work, and collaborate together. So office hours is one of those times, which happens daily, and students are able to go and meet with any of their teachers during that block in between the first and second class of the day. So that's another hallmark of our program, and we hear from a lot of our graduates that they go off to college and are immediately going to office hours, which is not something that I did as a college student, and not something that many of us did, because we weren't just in that mode, and our students are very much in that mode of working closely with their instructors and collaborating with their instructors. Josh mentioned AP courses a little bit, and we certainly have an AP course in every discipline. But then we also have a really wide variety of electives as students make their way into the 11th and 12th grade, where they can pursue areas of interest. So even though we're a relatively small school, we have some nice variety in our offerings. We also offer independent studies for students that are interested in a particular discipline, a course that we do not offer. Oftentimes that will result in kind of a one-on-one mentorship with the student working directly with a teacher, an advisor. One of those teachers, like we saw in that last video, that they really connect with, they're able to do that. So this past year, I had an independent study in poetry, which was really cool. I'll have another one this upcoming year. Kelly, who you'll hear from in a moment, did an independent study in French with a student last year, even though we offer French. It didn't work with that student's schedule, so she was able to do that. So we really have a flexible model in terms of our course offerings, especially as students move up through the grade levels.
And we just had one quick question before we move on. If students don't go to office hours, what would they do instead? What are their options?
Yeah, so our 9th graders are assigned office hours from the outset to sort of get them in that practice of going. And then, as students move up through the grade levels, it depends on the student. So some students just continue to do that on their own. Some students, in working with their advisor and their parents in concert, we will come up with a schedule. So maybe on Mondays and Tuesdays and Thursdays, they have office hours that they are assigned to, and then on Fridays they don't go. And then other students sort of demonstrate that they have those skills in hand, and they can drop in as needed, but they may go to the cafe, or they may go hang out with friends, or they may go do some homework, or just kind of decompress for a little bit before their next class starts. All right, so
that was a good question to lead us into our next topics here. So I wanted to look at some of the big ideas we've discussed already from the 9th and 10th grade lens. We know that when we start in September with a new class of 9th graders and our class of 10th grade, which often includes as many as 15 to 16 new students, we are looking at a lot of different experiences, and we focus on a lot of skill building, time management being critical to everything we do. And we also encourage our teachers through a number of different ways, professional development, co-teaching, team teaching, to consider how they can differentiate their material and course content, because students are coming to us with so much experience. And in order to engage our students, often we want their voice and we want them to have choice. So for example, I teach 9th grade history, world civilization 1. Most of our students have done something in the realm of world civilizations, ancient civilizations, somewhere in their elementary or middle school careers. Often that is the pyramids of Egypt, or perhaps architecture and the religion from Greece and Rome. Rather than try and create a curriculum that speaks to each individual student, or if we were to poll each of our students every year and change things, that would get a little bit complicated. Instead, we rely on student choice. And we ask them also to consider how they might tie what they're doing in history to something in science. Just today, we were talking about how can we connect Mesopotamia, the achievements in Mesopotamia scientifically, to the work we're going to do in world civilization. So we take all these 9th graders and our new 10th graders, and we work with them to become stronger learners and to become learners who enjoy what they're doing. And so when we were confronted with the possibility of distance learning, it was a little scary for the teachers, and I know for the students as well, but we had this foundation to build on. And when we shifted to our model of distance learning, we continued with a consistent schedule where we had daily synchronous class meetings. In a typical week, we meet 3 times a week. This spring, we only met twice a week, but that was partially to accommodate many different time zones around the world as we made this switch to distance learning very rapidly. Should we find ourselves in another distance learning scenario moving forward, we hope to continue with the schedule as published, and we will show you that schedule later on. We continued with our community time because our relationships are so important. We continued with our advisories, our class meetings, our senior presentations, and for many of us, those were the highlights of the week. We also, in our week-long professional development, which Ben mentioned, worked with our teachers to identify tools that were going to be helpful and useful, but not overwhelming. We didn't want to throw so many new technological tools at our students and faculty that everyone was, getting overwhelmed, and one class had 3 tools here and another class was 2 different tools. We really tried to streamline it and teach all students and faculty a key number of tools that were going to work across disciplines. So these are some of the things that we did use. We all became very proficient with Zoom and the features within Zoom. Flipgrid is a great tool to take short videos, so teachers who were missing out on some of the discussion and verbal feedback they might get from students in the classroom could use Flipgrid. Of course, Google Docs. Padlet was another great opportunity. And our science teachers got particularly creative, and they were finding a lot of help from Edpuzzle and then various simulations. And so just to give you a flavor of one of our creative teachers, a hallmark of our anatomy and physiology class in the spring is to do a dissection. And of course, that was not going to be possible, but our anatomy and physiology teacher set herself up with this great setup, and she did a live dissection with her students watching along. Wasn't quite the same for them, but it really was a fantastic way to keep the students engaged in the curriculum they were expecting and the projects they were hoping to participate in. And it's just, again, just a quick snapshot of some of the creativity of our teachers. Before I turn it over to our students, Ben, did you have anything you wanted to add in this realm?
I think I could just give one quick tack on, which is in that area of student voice and choice. Kelly mentioned an example from 9th grade. I teach 11th, or I taught 11th graders this past year in American literature, and the students choose the texts that we read. So they come together in discussion and make a choice based on a really broad thematic unit in the fall and then again in the winter. So when we entered into a distance learning paradigm, they were very sort of adept and familiar with that process. So they were able to go and choose something that they really wanted to pursue and read and work both synchronously in class discussion and activities, but then also asynchronously to read their book of choice, to complete a creative project, to come back and then present to their peers and share the things that they learned over that 8-week period where we were away from one another. So that, the fact that students really drive their learning here really, certainly pays dividends when we're all together, but also pay dividends when we were all apart.
Thanks. So we've asked Max and Stephanie to chime in here with a sample, do a little sharing. So Stephanie, take it away.
For me, coming into Chapel Hill, it was like a very new experience, being a boarder and being so far away from home. So I found it like really easy to be friends with people, especially the way it was set up on the first week that we had an introduction to our entire class, and we spent the first week of school with everyone in our grade. And a memory that I really remember is the scavenger hunt that we do for the 9th graders every year. You get paired with a random team and you have to do a scavenger hunt of items all across campus. And I was able to make friends with the people on my team, and to this day I'm still friends with them. So looking back, it's a really nice way that Chapel Hill makes it so easy for you to get integrated into the community, because right when you step on campus, you're kind of thrown in with your whole grade of people, and you just have to put yourself out there, and it makes you really feel welcomed, that everybody else is experiencing the same thing and you're kind of not divided by other people or put in different cliques. Everybody's just together.
All right, Max, your turn.
So one of my favorite moments from freshman year was, I think definitely coming into Chapel Hill. I came from a public school environment. I kind of wanted to start fresh. I wanted to start somewhere new. I kind of wanted to see what this new opportunity would throw, how it would work. So basically, this new, I really wanted to go to, I first didn't like the idea of going to a new school. I kind of didn't really want to leave my friends, but at the same time, I think it was the right thing to do. So I just got to know a bunch of the kids in my class and in some of the upper grades, and I became really good friends with them throughout the year. And one of my favorite moments of the year was the feasting hall that we did in, I think, January. After reading the Odyssey, we basically all went into we kind of recreated a Greek feasting hall. We had snacks and stuff, and we all shared these little poems, or I forget what exactly they were, but they're these little poems, and basically we read them, and we had to write them in the style of how it was written in the Odyssey, and it was super cool to just see how everyone wrote theirs to kind of describe who they were. So I think that was super cool and really fun memory from my freshman year, for sure.
All right, thank you, Max. We're going to turn it over to Josh now.
Hi, everybody. And one of the things that I know we're going to get some questions about is what does school look like for the coming year? And I just want to be clear with folks, we don't know entirely. If you had asked me 3 months ago, what would school look like in the spring, on March 15th or 18th, I don't think we knew much of anything. We certainly didn't know that it would be what it was. So for me to look forward into September and answer that question with 100% certainty is beyond me. I can tell you we're planning for 3 primary scenarios. Really, the first is that if something happens very, very quickly and there is a vaccine developed, and we are coming back to school and it looks more like a normal school year, maybe with some small modifications in place. The other would be that the state has decided, as we hit the area of September, that we need to resume the distance learning. We have a plan for that differs from what our plan was this spring. We're better prepared for that. We're certainly hoping that that's not the case, but certainly we're going to follow state guidance around that. The third scenario we're planning for, which we think is the most likely, is a combination of in-person and distance learning. Students who are available to come to campus in person, our intention is to have every student who's available to do that be on campus every day. I know some schools are planning to have half their students on campus one day and half another day. We're really blessed to have a very large campus, large classrooms, and enough space that we believe we're going to be able to have everybody in a safe way here on campus. We also know, however, there's going to be some students who are unable to make it back for a variety of reasons, including a number of our international students, and we're going to have a hybrid learning program in place for those students. That program would also be available to students who, for one reason or another, would need to be out of school for an extended period of time, depending on their circumstances. At this point, I think we're in pretty good shape to take on whatever the future holds. And as we get closer to that, we're going to be sending out communications to all of our new and returning families over the summer through the middle of July, and then again in the middle of August as we know more and more.
Okay, great. Thank you, Josh. Before we get into questions, there are some coming in, and please feel free to add any questions now. Kelly, do you mind walking folks through our schedule? And Matt's going to share his screen and bring up our weekly schedule. I think it will help just to give a visual of when our day starts and what that looks like. And also, one parent asked about the ratio of boarding and day, but I'd like to explain how, day students are involved in the boarding community as well, that it doesn't really create two communities within one.
Sure. So this is our weekly schedule for what we call a regular 5-day week. You'll see that we run a 6-block schedule. And one of the really great parts about the 6-block schedule is that you do not have to prepare for every class every night. So on a Monday, you have your A, B, C, D classes. And if you get homework in your A and B classes, you'll want to work on that Monday night. But perhaps you wait and you plan your time accordingly, and you wait to do your D block homework until Tuesday night, or perhaps you're doing your D block homework when you're at school in office hours on Tuesday. Another great component of this schedule, we have the 75-minute blocks, but a student, particularly in ninth grade, it would be extremely rare for a student to have 2 classes back to back. There's typically one 75-minute class, then a break of some kind, or lunch, or an assembly, and then another class. So we don't have our students sitting, and even when they're in their 75-minute classes, it's not sitting and listening to a teacher for the entire 75 minutes. You'll also see we have assemblies and other meetings sprinkled throughout the week. We meet in advisories once or twice a week, depending on the week. We have 2 assemblies. We have opportunities for our clubs to meet, and our clubs are student-run. Stephanie and Max spoke to some of that. You'll also notice that on Wednesdays, we have a late start. This is to allow all of our teachers to gather at 8 o'clock for faculty meetings, because our teachers are our coaches and our theater directors and our musicians who are working with students during the after-school program, the co-curricular program. And so we have this Wednesday morning, and that has been a real bonus for students. It allows for a slightly slower start to Wednesdays. Some students come to campus and choose to use the quiet time to get work done. Others choose to sleep in a little bit. Others come and just have a long breakfast Wednesday before they get started with C block. This particular schedule does not show what happens after 3 o'clock. And after 3 o'clock is when our co-curricular program runs. Typically, activities go until 5 p.m. And then at 5:30, the dining hall opens for dinner, and all day and boarding students are invited to dinner. And at 6:30, we have a drop-in study hall for anyone who's interested, proctored by a teacher. And then finally, at 7:30, we open some classrooms and some other spaces for boarding students to have study hall. Our 9th and 10th graders have their study hall proctored by teachers, dorm parents, and our 11th and 12th graders are allowed to work in their own rooms in the dorm with some supervision from dorm parents. Day students are welcome to stay for those study halls. They're not required to stay the entire 2 hours, but they're welcome to join us and use the positive peer pressure of everybody working together to get their work done.
Great, thank you, Kelly. Question we have, what kind of student thrives at CH-CH? I feel like there's so many layers to that question. So I don't know who wants to tackle that one first, and then I might ask the parents to maybe speak to that about kind of their children. Or if Josh, do you want to maybe start off?
Sure. I mean, I think one answer to that question is a student who is interested in and willing to engage with adults. Again, the relationships that they're going to form with adults here and their peers are incredibly important. And so we find that students get the most out of their Chapel Hill-Chauncy Hall experience if they're willing to dig in with their teachers when their teachers are there to dig in with them. We benefit from having small classes. We have advisory groups where you're with maybe 4 students total in an advisory group. Our 9th grade classes are typically 10 students or fewer. So there's real opportunities for teachers to get to know their students really well and engage with them. And so I think students who are willing to take on that engagement are the ones who are really going to make the most of it.
Great, thank you. Carrie, do you want to add anything to that, just kind of from your experience, just kind of just finishing year 1 with us? And
Sure. Actually, I would say pretty much the same thing, in that if you are a student who really thrives in a small community where you are having, a lot of interactions with your peers and your teachers, your co-curricular folks, someone who really, wants to be part of and engaged with, all the different people on campus. I think also, having an interest in engaging in the academics, in the extracurriculars, and really being part of, just participating. And I will say that with that, I'm not sure that you needed to be that way before. So in our experience, Chapel Hill kind of opened up a lot of these doors that maybe we didn't have that experience before. And because it's so welcoming and inviting, and it's part of the mores of the school that everybody is engaged, it really kind of helps, especially I would say, draw the first year students in to really become part of.
thank you. Michelle, anything you'd like to add from your perspective?
I would just also echo the community is so special, and the relationships with the teachers and the other students are so valuable. I think that I've been in touch with parents of so many different types of kids, outgoing kids, introvert kids, who have who learn in different ways. And one of the things that they all speak to is just that welcoming community that helps break kids out of their shell, give them confidence, that type of thing. So I think that there's so much support here that, it's very difficult for your student not to thrive with everyone has their hands in the pot kind of thing. So that's been really amazing. And I think that's one of the strengths of CH-CH.
Great, thank you. For the students, I think, one of the questions is just kind of the culture of the school. We spoke to that a lot. And Stephanie, you mentioned kind of those friendships that were made. And now that we've gone distance learning for the spring trimester, can you just kind of speak to still kind of how, the culture of the school and how we kind of kept, do you feel like, obviously it's not the same as being in person, but can you kind of speak to how you feel the school did as far as continuing to engage and kind of be there for you?
I can start. So basically, I think definitely the whole the relationships with the teachers, that definitely still stuck in. even though we were in person, I was still able to go into the breakout rooms and meet with my teachers one-on-one to kind of talk about how I'm doing and if I need help on this assignment. And that part of the core is definitely still there. I also, one of my favorite classes when I took U.S. history this year, and first of all, love that class. And second of all, we that class is very discussion based, which I really like. And we obviously had discussions in person, but we also had discussions via Zoom. And I just think that is just super awesome. I felt like in all my classes, I felt like I was in the real thing. I felt like I was still, even though it wasn't actually the real thing, I felt like I was still there. All the kids were there, my teacher was there, so it was still I could still definitely see Chapel Hill in those classes.
Great, thank you, Max. And Stephanie, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, for me, like, since I'm like so far away from everyone, it's like been kind of hard to like stay in contact, but like teachers have really made themselves available. Like I get emails constantly, even when we're not in class, teachers asking me how I'm doing, or even like dorm parents on campus will send me pictures of like their children because like I'm always surrounded by them. So it's really nice to like always feel like even when I'm away from like my second home, like it's kind of always here with me.
Thank you for sharing that. Another question, maybe for Kelly or Ben, how do you make sure that students are challenged in their academics to reach their potential? So kind of that we've talked a lot about support, but then how do you challenge students within the classroom?
I'll speak to that from the 9th and 10th grade perspective. Because we do have a series of core classes that all students in 9th and 10th grade do need to take, we are always looking at the balance. And this year, my colleague in 9th grade history had one student who was very bright, came to us from Vietnam and was really interested in a number of different topics that were going to be a struggle to somehow incorporate into world civilization as it was. But she worked very closely with this student, and one of the things he was interested in was serious research, and he didn't, at least at the start, he didn't think what we were presenting as a research paper was serious enough for him. But it took very little for us to develop some different research questions to provide different resources that went above and beyond what we were requiring. And lo and behold, we even managed to fit in some of his particular interests by expanding and digging in with some of those questions about the research. And those are things that all of us as teachers are willing to do and are excited to do. We do, I mentioned self-advocacy, and that is a big piece of this, helping 9th graders and new students to CH-CH understand that we want to work with them. We're not always mind readers, so we do need them to sometimes advocate for themselves and tell us what they need, and then we can certainly address what they need.
Great, thank you. Ben, do you want to add anything from the 11th and 12th grade perspective?
Yeah, I would come back to that idea of agency. So courses that are designed to put students at the center of their own learning and their experience, and asking them to be stewards of that and to drive the curriculum. And then, having the opportunity to have those close relationships and one-on-one conferences and conversations with students to differentiate up for them and help guide them into sort of going deeper and deeper into an area of interest. And also just courses where we really grapple with difficult questions and difficult topics. I think that is a hallmark of the 11th and 12th grade experience.
Great, thank you, Ben. As a student, Stephanie or Max, do you want to talk about do you have anything to add to that? Just kind of where you feel like you've had certain passions or things you were specifically interested in, and you felt like you were being pushed in a healthy way, because we do have a lot of students looking from public school, right? And there's kind of there isn't that balance. It's either one way or the other. But do Stephanie and Max, do you have anything to add to that, or even Carrie and Michelle from your own children's experience?
For me, I'd say like my biggest thing has always been math. Like I've had a really big struggle with being able to just like understand the material in math class. But from coming to this school, I was able to get a lot of extra help, especially my freshman year. Mr. Bailey was my math teacher for Algebra 1. And I stayed in his office hours almost every day, just working on math, doing extra work. And he was always able to carve out extra time to make sure I understood the material, especially if I wasn't understanding it in the way that he taught it in class. He always found a way for me to like learn in a different way. And I was able to take that with me through my other math classes and even take a summer course over the summer during my sophomore year so that I was able to skip into a higher math class for my junior year and my senior year now. So like I feel like I've always been able to have like a teacher that was there for me, like no matter if I needed help like outside of school hours or like during class, like, and it's not just my teachers alone, like teachers I had in the classroom, teachers that taught classes that I hadn't even been in, they were always available for help too.
Great, thank you. Carrie, I think I saw your hand up.
Yes, I thought that I would just say that I can kind of echo what Kelly and Ben were saying, and that I saw it as a parent perspective. My daughter had differentiated instruction in 2 of her classes, and I would say she was given more voice and choice because they were areas where she had, you know, some, I don't know what you would say, like she was really interested in it and did well in these subjects. And it was really great to see that she did have choice over kind of what she wanted, the projects she wanted to tackle, and that she was challenged, she was pushed to kind of go beyond where she was. So, and then also echoing Stephanie, in areas where it may have been harder for her, she did have the opportunity to meet independently with the teachers. But also one of the great things that I saw during distance learning was in the breakout rooms working with her peers. So they would help each other in areas in classes where they may have been struggling more, and working through things together. And it was a nice opportunity, one of those kind of shining lights of distance learning that you might not have seen the same way if you're in person and you're in different areas of the campus. But when you're coming off of a class, you can just go into that breakout room and work together. So just some examples there.
Great, thank you. Good. I think those were most of the questions. I'm just going to give everyone a minute if there are any other questions that you want to ask. I know we're coming upon 4:30, and I just wanted to take a moment to bring your attention to the chat. Matt Soul, who we work very closely with in the admissions office, our director of communications, he just put a link in for our virtual admissions experience. And so, you know, we also in admissions had to quickly pivot all of our events and just kind of all of our on-campus approaches to having families really learn more about CH-CH, from, you know, campus tours to interviews to just anything and everything. So what we've done, right when we went to virtual experience, we were just completing our first round of new students who were admitted and getting ready to host our revisit day on campus, which was an opportunity for parents and students to come to campus one last time before they needed to make their decision to enroll at CH-CH. So we had to kind of do everything virtually at that point, which was actually really pushed us to you know, really figure things out. And we came up with 7 different webinars, live webinars like this one on different topics, from academics to a student panel, parent panel, more information on our skills and academic support program, college counseling. And we've also since, you've heard a couple students mention that they're part of the Cavalry. That's our student ambassador program. So we have many awesome students helping us in admissions with tours or hosting a student for a shadow day or helping out at different events such as open house. So we had a handful of students actually walk parents through a virtual tour of campus. So all of this was created on our website under an admissions virtual experience page. So if you quickly enter your name and email address, you'll have access to all of these pre-recorded videos, which are also time-stamped and also have many great resources within that page. But one great thing that we're currently continuing to do, we had a fantastic admission season from first round. We do have a few select openings still left for September. So we're always happy to schedule a Zoom info session. So just like this, we're just gonna have an opportunity to continue to answer your questions. and also learn more about your child and figure out if it, if it seems like a good fit, and talk through the application process. So we're happy to do that. My whole admissions team is here to help and walk you through that. And we can certainly take you through the next steps. So typically we do have anywhere from about 50 to 55 new students joining our community. That was one of the questions that just came in, and typically it still stays within those percentages of 60% day, 40% boarding. We do keep our 9th grade class smaller by design. So the 9th grade, is typically about mid-30s to really help them transition from middle school to high school. And so as Kelly mentioned, we do add about 15 plus students for the sophomore class. I've been here just finished my 18th year, so that's typically what we've seen as far as new sophomores. And then we usually add about 6 to 8 new juniors as well. Some students who have tried public school, it wasn't a good fit, and just really looking for really a community and somewhere where they can enjoy high school and really have more options for college. So, so that's really kind of where we're adding new students. We are trying to figure out our best ways to, like Stephanie mentioned, the orientation in the beginning of the year, and Max with the scavenger hunt. Depending on what September looks like and how we can do orientation for new students, it might have to be some smaller group things on campus, some virtual events for both parents and students, but we're currently collaborating with different members of the administrative team and faculty, and really trying to get some student input on what that's going to look like this fall. So again, thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. That was just kind of a quick synopsis of the admissions process, but again, happy to get into more detail with that. If you have any questions at all, again, my name is Lisa Pellrine, Director of Enrollment Management. My email is available on the website, and just happy to chat with you with any other questions. I just want to give a round of applause to our many great panelists this afternoon. Thank you for taking time out of this beautiful day to be with us and answer your questions. And we'll be sending out a recording of this webinar as well. So thank you, everyone. Hope you enjoy the day, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Thank you, everyone.